What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the NotBland Show. And I'm your host, Dujane Bland. And today we have on owner and founder of Drag Race Reference, Dave W. We're going to talk Winternationals. We're going to talk about the storylines that have been created over the last 3 weeks that really I don't think anybody could have written this script at all. Before we get started, we know the deal. Make sure if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the NotBland Show on the YouTube channel at the NotBland Show. Share and like, tell a friend to tell a friend. It's going to be a fun one tonight. And man, it's 3 weeks in to the racing season. It's 3 weeks in to Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. And I'm going to tell you, it was ugly this week. And ugly is putting it nicely. I'm telling you. Tough week for a lot of people. Some people scored. They went out on a limb, got lucky, and that's what it's all about, right? Sometimes it's just a little luck involved, and some people got a lot of it. It's been a rough season so far for a lot of us, but we're hanging tough. And fortunate enough, everyone else around us is having a rough season as well. We'll have this commercial break to show you how you can get involved if you are not involved with Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, and we'll have on the ticker how you can get involved with the NotBland Show League. And we'll do that and talk drag racing with Dave W. after the break.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
So it's pretty easy, ladies and gentlemen, on how to do it. And without further ado, it's my guy who is the owner and founder of DragRaceReference.com, Dave W. What's going on, baby?
Oh, man, I just was looking at that beautiful commercial for Drag Race Bracket Bonanza thinking I really didn't do too good this past weekend. At least in the nitro categories, that was some unpredictable outcomes there. And the results definitely show it. So I think you could have probably I probably could have had a better bracket if I hit the randomizer button than how I thought that one was going to play out.
Yeah. And the funny thing is Memphis Lonnie is second. You're still in first, regardless of how bad we all did. You're still in first. I dropped to third in this whole thing overall. It's wild.
It is. Still managed to stretch out the points lead, even though I had such a terrible bracket on the nitro side. But hey, the rest of it worked out okay, and Pro Stock was a little more predictable with Greg winning the race, and it's hard to bet against that guy right now, but I did have Matt Hartford after his showing on Saturday and Friday making it to the finals against Greg. I did not expect Dallas Glenn to be there again, but hey, what can you do? You know, that's why they race them.
Exactly. That's why they race them, and it's really interesting to see Greg Anderson at this point in the season, kind of picking up where he left off. It was an obvious and known fact that he needed to pick up his lights if he wanted to have an opportunity to, start winning some races towards the end of the season. And he was able to dig deep and find that, and not only find the reaction times, but also find the horsepower. Dallas and him have gone at it. He is the only repeat winner so far this season. He had electrifying lights all day long. The car was on kill. Dallas Glenn's car was on kill. But right now, he is throwing some haymakers at these young bucks and sending them to the trailer.
And I wouldn't say that I kind of thought that maybe Greg had kind of ridden off into the sunset. He did have a few lean years there, even though he was still doing well in the point standings. He was around in the end. He was in the championship picture, but he wasn't really racking up round wins and race wins like the Greg Anderson of old. And now it's seemingly going the other way around. So it makes me wonder, how long can this carry on? And might we see another 2016, 2015, the way the KB cars were out there, or even going back? I know you're not going to see another 2004. I don't think Greg's going to come out there and win 3/4 of the races this year.
No.
It would be an impossibility, I feel like. But then again, you only say that till it happens. Then you look back on it and go, wow, that was pretty historic. So what they're doing right now, Greg, with his 6 straight finals, is the first time that he's done that since you go back to 2016. And I just think that it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because we're into the month of April, which means it's full wide season, and that could be a game changer. But
Yes.
if anybody has the best experience at the full wides, it's going to be Greg.
So you talking about pro stock here, and one thing we're noticing with a lot of these guys is we didn't have an issue with holding the clutch before, but it's quite apparent with all this horsepower that we got going around, especially on the KB side. Everybody's trying to get a little bit of an advantage to getting their foot out, getting that clutch foot off the pedal quicker. And we're seeing a lot of individuals kind of blow right through the pre-stage or staging bulbs and not even allowing the tree to drop because they just don't have enough pressure on that clutch foot. It really, to me, says a lot about the competition. And I know we want to look at both sides of this, both sides of these 2 powerhouses here. But right now, it's KB who is really, like Drag Racing Mayhem says, has a stranglehold on this pro stock class right now.
Well, I mean, that's, obviously they've been in all the finals. They've won all the races. They are the top 4 in points. You go back to Jed Koffler Jr. in 5th. And just obviously with Dallas and Greg and their final round adventures this year and being number 1 and 2 in points, they're pretty close to each other. But the lead that Greg has on 3rd place, Corey Reed, would get you all the way to 1st to 12th in funny car and 1st to 8th in top fuel. So that's how big of a lead that they've already stretched out, which bodes well for the regular season championship that now pays money.
Right.
And could ideally pay bonus points going into the countdown, even though it doesn't. But the fact that these guys are there gives them chances to be in the Mission Foods challenges every week too. So they're taking all of the opportunities to earn all of the bonus points and start racking things up for when it counts later on in the year.
And we're going to show you the final. And then when we come back from this clip of the final, I want to get your thoughts, Dave, on everybody's asking what's wrong with Elite and whether it's one man and Mark Ingersoll, which I think is a joke. But I want to hear your thoughts after we take a look at this final of Greg Anderson and Dallas Glenn, part 2.
Greg Anderson, it is the first time since 1980 2 drivers have met in 4 straight Pro Stock Eliminator finals. Will the result from the final stand, or will Dallas Glenn avenge his loss there at the finish line stripe? It is Greg Anderson again. 6:47.6 beats a 6:50 with a 3. The lights were 27 and 17. What else do you say about the quality of competition out of this team?
Greg Anderson has been in 3 final rounds this year, and this is the first time you actually got the car out of first gear, and when you did, watch out. New track record for you, 6:47 with the 6, and you are holding the Wally as the Winternationals winner. Congratulations, Greg.
Thank you, Bruno. Yeah, I think we made up for last week, and I apologize for last week. That wasn't much of a final, but that one was. That was pretty cool right there, and we both did the best we could possibly do. It was just a great drag race. So thank the Lord. KB Titan has just absolutely come out of the gates smoking this year, and I hope it can last. I know obviously we're not making friends out here, but that's the name of the game. That's what you come out to try to do. So far so good. We're looking good so far. Hendrick Car's looking good. Summit's looking good. Raystar Wheels looking good. VP Oil. Thank you guys all so much. And Pomona. I love this place, Bruno.
Enjoy the celebration.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah!
Greg Anderson, man, back at it again. And we got that infamous yeah from
Right.
Greg. He's just, man, it's just crazy. But like I asked before, we looked at that run. Is this because one man is missing, or it's just the simple fact that right now they're getting outperformed and getting foot to butt cheeks?
No, I don't. They're down Mark Ingersoll and then Jake Hairston as well. There's two tuners on the team that they are currently without, but I wouldn't want to insult the intelligence of the team or ride all of their success on the intelligence of just one or two men at the same time. So I think at this particular point, you can't really discredit that or credit that as being a case, because they've got a very vast notebook. This ain't their first season. They've seen these tracks before. They've seen these track conditions before. They could be testing and trying things that may pay off for them later in the season. However, even towards the end of last year, Erica's car in particular, even though she did have some successful back-to-back semifinals and Aaron Stanfield was part of the championship picture, they didn't really have the performance edge that they typically did then. Even going back to that qualifying session in Dallas that Erica's car broke on the burnout around the starting line, they lost a run. So I think there's a little more going on, that they're probably working towards something. It seems like they might be losing it down low compared to some of the KB cars. It could be in gearing. It could be in clutch. It could be, there's so many different things, but that's a very intelligent group of people on both sides. I'm sure they'll get it figured out in the future. But as of right now, it's very interesting to see the majority of them across the board be towards the middle and lower half of the sheets.
Yeah. I sometimes and the pendulum swings back and forth with pro stock anyway. And I do think there's a little bit of seeing if they can get a performance edge early in the season, because I don't think right now, 3 races in, you're not, your regular season championship hopes are not over with 3 races in. So, and I think these 2 back-to-back 4 wides are going to throw a monkey wrench in this whole thing of points as we go forward. But I mean, the writing's kind of been on the wall, at least for Erica anyway, since last year. And there really hasn't been much change since then. It's not her, just they're down on performance when you look at all the other KB cars at the moment. And really the only cars that are performing well out of that camp were not there. And that's the Quadras. So to me, it makes it fun, because we're not even out of the first quarter of the regular season. When we get into the second quarter of the regular season, it'll be really interesting and something to watch to see how the tides turn, and whether they pick it up. Because if they do pick it up, I think we're already being treated now. When they do start to pick it up, I think it's really going to be a treat, because right now you get both of those teams, get Elite back to what they were doing, and with what KB's doing right now, it's going to be a slugfest.
Well, it is, and they don't really have to concern themselves too much, because they know there's going to be a points reset. They know that once we get past Indy, they're all going to be right there, and they're all going to get a chance to start over again. And if you get on a hot streak and you can win 4 of the last 6, you got just as good a chance as anybody to do this. And I wouldn't put it past Erica, Jag, Troy Jr., anybody on that team that has all the performance and the driving abilities. Aaron Stanfield, Greg Stanfield being back out there now. I mean, don't count him out yet. I think that a lot of these drivers, the field is very deep in that class. So to me, knowing that going in, it just makes it that much more special for Greg Anderson and Dallas Glenn to go the rounds that they are and win what they're winning at this point in time, knowing that literally anybody can go into race day with a chance. I mean, we had the quickest Winter Nationals field in history, one of the closest Winter Nationals fields in history from spread from 1st to 16, on top of the fact that it was one of the quickest fields just of all time, into top 10 there of all time. And we anybody could win on Sunday. I mean, it's just that way, but it just doesn't seem to play out. So the fact that the results keep going their way, maybe they're just lucky right now, and you can't beat luck.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I did ask the question of because I was curious on that. If they had both gone green in Arizona and both cars stalled out, apparently the rule is the one who is the furthest out or ahead is the winner. Me personally, I think you should get out and run to the finish line. But that might not be good for Greg, but I still think somebody should get out and run to the finish line. But I think that is the rule. If you the one that's furthest ahead, if they both break, it's the one that's furthest ahead that gets the W. So I was wondering that outside of the fact that it was just a red light, but it's like, man, what if they both just stalled and and know what they got? And if they're really close, you got to go out there with a tape measure and see which one, use a laser to figure out which one's ahead. Like, yeah, that would have been
at that
wild.
point, you just put it in gear and keep cranking that starter until it just moves itself under power till the starter blows up or something. At that point,
yeah,
that's how it's going to be. But yeah, that would be interesting if it ever played out that way sometime.
Yeah, it would be very interesting for sure. Very interesting. This whole season so far has been interesting. And when we look at the fuel classes and looking at Funny Car, we've had a different winner at every one. You had two small teams get the wins earlier in the season, Chad Green and Paul Lee. And then Fast Jack gets the W here in Pomona. Look, I don't think any of us saw the ladder playing out the way that it did in Funny Car. Not at all. Anybody who says they picked that, you hit the randomizer. You're a damn lie. You hit the randomizer. You didn't pick that crap. And if you did, you were hoping for a long shot to get a win. And it just so happened to play out in your favor. I don't think anyone saw Proc going out to a car in Blake Alexander that, Angel asked the question, and I thought the question was fair because at the end of the day, you hadn't been doing anything but pissing down your leg the whole entire time. And let's be real, for most of that, you pissed down your leg all the way to the second round. So I don't think the question was unfair. I do think the response was funny. I don't think the question was unfair, but I don't think anybody had Blake beating out Ron Capps. Nobody saw anything happening with guys, with. Am I in the right? I'm not in the right spot here. My daggone it.
You're looking at Phoenix, aren't you?
Yeah, I was looking at
Phoenix. You're in the wrong one. We're three races in, not two.
My bad. I'm at the wrong one.
I'm at the wrong track.
I'm a week back. I'm about 2 weeks back. But nobody had that whole story written there. You pretty much watch, Spencer Hyde gets out there, beats Capps. Nobody saw that coming. Some of it's baffling with the crew chiefs and the way the cars ran during qualifying. You had Paul Lee getting it. The cars just seems to be running pretty consistent right now. You had Matt, you had Blake Alexander getting past Austin Proc in the first round, and then all of a sudden finding a tune-up, was able to at least get down track in that second round and make it competitive against Matt Hagan. If he had a better light, he might have had a chance. Some wacky stuff here. Even I'd say Daniel Wilkerson too, getting past all the way to the final. Nobody seen that coming either. This whole thing, it seems as we go on, we've had some wacky conditions in I thought the conditions are quite favorable in Phoenix, and these were Chamber of Commerce type conditions here in Pomona. Just people not getting aggressive enough? Are they a little nervous, or are we just flat out seeing individuals miss when it comes down to race day?
Well, I mean, even before you get to race day, you get all these shots at the track and qualifying. And from what I've heard and read, it doesn't seem like the conditions changed very much. In fact, they might have even improved from Friday to Saturday and then to Sunday. And then obviously the more runs the track gets on it, the track's going to be its best on race day too. I mean, just the fact that we went into race day with Bob Tasca on the sidelines. That was all the big names out first round. You had one that didn't even make the show. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the cars that can really put the power down seem like they struggled a little bit, and the cars that are kind of like right there on the power side, but maybe usually a couple hundredths behind, the track and the conditions came to them. And Cruz Pedregon, nothing against the team, but they're going out there running 88s, and they can't get down any other track for the most part.
Right.
The tracks seem to come to the lesser teams. Tony Stewart, you always talk about that team being underpowered and how they made rounds in Gainesville, made it to the finals here. Why not? We'll get the top fuel, but just another example of maybe the track was a little too good for some of the crew chiefs, and some of the guys who are just a little down on that power were able to hit the sweet spot and really run some numbers. The low 380s that Paul Lee were putting up were very impressive to me.
Yeah. They seem to have gotten found their groove, so to speak. They were starting to kind of find it towards the end of last season, and they've come out, and it seems like with Medlin and Lindbergh, they have found a way to get this car down the track and be more than just competitive. They're right there with the tops of the class. The first frustrating thing for me in Funny Car goes right to Cruz Pedregon. You've got Lee Beard on that staff, and I understand there's a lot of young guys over there, but the leadership has to use their head a little bit when you're in a crunch time or pressure moment. They should have had Cruz strapped in the car before they ever even got to the line. That would have kept the driver calm and cool. And that way, that wouldn't have been a thing that you needed to worry about, along with the issues that you were having on the starting line. Big ups to Jim Head and that camp for waiting around and really not caring what the NHRA thought about it. Because I agree, nobody wants to take a single. And if it's just if it's something they just got to get together, and it happens to all of us. One day you might need that, but it's little things. It's the little things with the Pedregon camp that's keeping them out of going rounds or going deep into race day, because they're missing the mark on the little things. If you do the little things right, then that pretty much eliminates a lot of variables and at least gives yourself an opportunity. But you can't continue to bring out the bazooka and point it at your foot and proceed to pull.
Well, yeah, I tell you what, though, about Cruz and just past history, we're coming to Vegas, we're coming to Charlotte, we're coming to four wides. Cruz has had very good success in all three instances. And if they're getting that car down the track and they're getting their stuff figured out, I would say he's going to be a dark horse this month, these two national events that are coming up, because, you don't got to be the best. You could be second best and still go rounds there. So not to take anything away from him, but you just got to get it down the track. And Cruz has the ability to roll it deep and cut a number on that Christmas tree when he needs to as well. So I look for them to go rounds at the four wides here. They might surprise some people.
Yeah. Hey, that's one I'll be looking out for. Definitely. It seems like the Alexis couldn't carry over some of the success they had, despite some of the major issues they had going on for an entire race that was able to get them, pretty deep in the race day. Wasn't able to carry that over to this particular race here. You look at Austin Prock. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Nobody's hitting the panic button. but there's some vulnerabilities being shown here. But I don't think you can just place it on them. I think we've seen over the past 3 races, there's vulnerabilities with everyone right now. It really literally is anybody's race come race day, unless you're Jim Dunn.
Well, and to your point, Austin Prock in the entire 2024 rookie season that he had, the entire season, had 2 first-round losses. 3 races into 2025, 2 first-round losses. So he's already equaled his entire year last year. So maybe he's just getting out of the way early. Maybe it's a sign of things to come. But that team has been behind the 8 ball ever since that rear-end grenade Q1.
Yeah.
They almost struggled to maybe didn't even could have not made the show in Gainesville had they had 2 more sessions or had other cars got down the track. They were at the bottom half of the field, exited early. They throw down a hero run every now and again to get themselves high up in the standings, but I mean, they didn't close the deal in Phoenix and gave it away first round in Pomona. And this is a team too, when we talked about recapping the 2024 season, almost 78% of all runs they made last year were in the 3s, and they're struggling. I mean, that was what they were known for, was getting down the track, completion, getting A to B, and they're hurting to do that right now. And I'm really surprised to see that is the case. But to your point also about how tough this field is, that could also be another answer to why are we seeing such strange results on race day, because you can't go up there and back it down and say, I'm going to run and put a 390 in it and I'm going to go rounds. Yeah. Everybody can swing for the fences now. We were so close to an all 3-second field here yet again. And you know that they're going up there race day thinking, well, you know what? Yeah, they've been struggling, but that car's been 394. That car's been 395. I can't give it away. I can't go up there and risk being soft. Right. So they go out there, they shake the tires, and they're out.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point, because, I mean, when you look at everybody that qualified has potential, even Jeff Deal, even though can't necessarily point the car straight, but he has potential to put you out. And he still ran a 409 and was right there if Beckman were to slip up. Right. I think both are hard to gauge, but yeah, the competition is great. And even the people who missed, if, they found some level of consistency that day, they could have been a factor as well. We'll go and we'll look at this run that was able to give John Force Racing 300 wins. And the boss got more than half of those. But Jack Beckman will be the guy to seal number 300 for JFR. And it looked like this.
We knew how good the car was. Statistically, you heard Freibert earlier in the show. It's been better than Austin Prock's car. And in this moment, he needs it to be better than Dan Wilkerson's. Dan Wilkerson smokes the tires. Beckman's on and off the throttle. And for the 300th time, John Force Racing will celebrate a Nitro Funny Car victory. 4:015 and 3:02. It was more of an oil painting than it was a masterpiece, but he'll take it.
John Force, your 300th win in Funny Car. John Force Racing. John, did you ever imagine this was ever possible?
Well, I wished I would have won it, but I wasn't driving. But Beck and Prock and Brittany, they all do a great job. And Robert and myself picked Beckman because we saw what he could do, and we put him in the seat, and boy, he's right in the heat of battle. So I love him, and congratulations, Fast Jack.
Pretty cool, man. That was a win that you can see again, which is again, we say this all the time, is it's very strange for 2 cars to virtually have the potential to be identical cars. And John's car has pretty much picked up where it left off last year and continues to truck down through there. And as long as Beckman can be in the ballpark, they have an opportunity to win some races. And I believe he has got to be thought of as an individual who has the opportunity to win a championship.
That is without a doubt going to be the case. With this early season success, the roles are reversed. Austin Prock gets to play chaser in this championship because, Fast Jack, even when he got out of the car, after he got out of the car in 2020, I mean, yes, he had a heartbreaking defeat towards the end of the year, but I mean, he was championship contention with a couple races to go in 2020, and he was in it. So can't count this guy out. And he's a veteran of the sport and definitely going to be in the championship conversation all year long, not only for the regular season, but for the end of the season too.
For sure. You got a request. You put up some live streams there. So you've got a little request here. You might be able to grant that request if you have the.
I don't have those currently available to be able to do that. And I don't know how well NHRA would, or NHRA on Fox would like to. Those would probably get more copyright claims towards them because more of the recent races have had postings from NHRA and from NHRA on Fox and Speed Sport and a lot of highlights put up that would get flagged more so than the older stuff. So I'd love to help you out with that, but unfortunately I cannot.
Yeah, I think they are starting to put a lot of that stuff on the NHRA YouTube channel as well. So if you hold out, I'm sure they're going to start putting some of that stuff up there as well. If you have NHRA TV, I think you can find it too. I hadn't really dug that deep into NHRA TV, but
they've gotten rid of some of the older seasons on NHRA TV, which is a shame because it'd be nice to go back to 2016 when that started and be able to watch those old broadcasts like they used to have. But they, for some reason, have purged them, and as it's been updated throughout the years, have not carried over. So, unfortunately, that's not readily available.
You fact check that?
I haven't fact checked it, but he may be the best team, but he's got nothing to show for it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They got no wins, they got no finals, and they're floating around in where are we at here? Third into points, 74 back. So
yeah.
I did have, speaking of showed the final round, I was preparing as much things that I could depending on the outcomes of it. And since the outcome didn't play out this way, I will pose it as a trivia question to you and all the viewers. Daniel Wilkerson had the chance to win his first national event title in a nitro funny car. Unfortunately, went up in smoke, lost it to Jack Beckman. However, when is the last time you had two first-time back-to-back nitro funny car winners?
I'm going to go 2018.
Oh, unfortunately.
Let's see what we got here. What we got here? Anybody want to put that up? Let's see.
We'll come back to it in Top Fuel because I got a one to go with the Top Fuel that kind of correlates to the funny car that also didn't happen, but we'll revisit it. We'll give him a chance to think about it. See if you can remember who the last two back-to-back first-time funny car winners were.
I did not get that footage of that interview. I did not get that footage of that interview.
Probably a good.
Would love to do it, but did not get the footage of that one. Moving over to Top Fuel before we get to some of the oddball and some storyline questions here. I don't think Clay even thought that he had an opportunity to win the way we saw Brittany's car running. You look at Steve Torrance, who managed to double step his way right out of first round. I mean, I'm really not happy about that. That is a unnecessary drag race bracket bonanza loss. I mean, dude was like the Red Hot Chili Peppers just giving away. Right? Come on, man. Killing me. Doug Coletta, the way that car was running, of course, AB, Tony Stewart had a car, Sean had a car, even Josh came out, put up some numbers there, and even had a good first round. But Clay survives the gauntlet. And I know a lot of people wanted to see Tony Stewart get his first win, but I didn't think Tony was going to get that win. And here's my reasoning why.
You said he was going to. I thought I read that message. Oh, okay.
I might have said that. But their team has not followed through and completed the mission every time they've been in a final round deal. It just hasn't come to fruition. And for whatever reason, missed on the old tune-up, and Clay blows it up and gets the win. I do think it is coming for Tony, though, and it may be in these next two races. That this four-wide deal may be a thing where they can pull through, and because they are running pretty consistent. I mean, I have to give them that much credit. They are running pretty consistent. Are they able to throw down some of the bigger numbers that we've seen from other teams? No, not necessarily. But obviously that really doesn't matter when it comes to race day, because we watched several cars that were running big numbers and were doing great during qualifying take first round and second round exits. But Clay and this team finding a way, they're able to find some numbers as well, but just finding a way to get to the final and squeak one out. And before we get to talk about it, we'll watch the final that Clay was able to squeak out a blow-up win.
Can Clay Millican stave off what seems to be an inevitable piece of NHRA drag racing history, or does Tony Stewart capture victory number one? Flames are up, Stewart smokes the tires, Millican blows up an engine in a chaotic final round. Clay Millican, with flames trailing behind his dragster, picks up a Winternationals victory, 427 at 189, wild.
Well, Clay Millican's driving was on point all day long. You received your best for that final 038 on the tree. I mean, I know you are a racer. You're a diehard bracket racer, and that means a lot to you. Obviously, the car didn't perform the way you wanted to, but you're holding that wall, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Congratulations, Clay.
Well, I got to tell y'all right quick, thank you, Rick Ware. Parks Plus been with me 14 years. Mighty Firebreakers on this weekend. But I got to tell this quick story. Jimbo told me, he said, I got it loaded up. A couple things are going to happen here. We're going to win. We're going to blow up. And if we lose, we're a footnote in history. Thank goodness we ain't that footnote in history, but Tony Stewart is going to win one of these things very soon. All I know is we won! We won the Winternationals.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Could be more happy for Clay and him being able to win that. You know, if they just could have had a little bit more momentum, Tony could have gotten around him at the end, and it just smoked the tires too early in the run.
Well, I guess that's possible. You never can tell. But, I mean, you got to hand it to the man. They went up there, they did what they said we're going to do. And Clay got there on his driving, too, don't forget. He definitely had a whole shot win that got him around. And they are quietly working their way up. You know, Clay's not one of the ones, like you said, he probably didn't go into race day thinking he could win. I disagree. I'm sure he goes into every race day thinking he's going to win. And when you got 14 top fuel cars in the field, you got to think that about 12 of them can win, which makes the first round matchups just as exciting as the final round matchups, because they're heavy hitters against each other all day long. Props to Tony Stewart for getting as far as he is. But, man, how about Clay Millican? Just in general, 51 wins on the IHRA side. He's the winningest driver in IHRA history. He's got the most championships in IHRA history. And he's over here. He's been at NHRA for a long time. 1998 Joliet was his first national event. So he's competed off and on the NHRA side. But he's got a U.S. Nationals win that he picked up last year. He's got a Winter Nationals win that he picked up this year. I mean, he's quietly working his way up the NHRA win list and picking up some of the big NHRA historical events and tracks and adding to his trophy case too. So this guy all around is just one of the guys that you don't really think of in that way because everybody thinks Tony Schumacher, Antron Brown, those are the NHRA side guys. But Clay Millican knows how to wheel a top fuel dragster. And I think that before he hangs up the helmet, he might have a championship on the NHRA side to go with it.
Yeah, I think so. It's starting to come together, him and Jimmo. It's really starting to come together. And they just grit it out. You know what I mean? They're a team with a lot of grit. And it doesn't always look pretty, but they always find a way to get a W. And there is not, Lonnie, there is not a full field of top fuel cars for Vegas. It's only 13 to my count. I could be off, but I think I counted 13 top fuel dragsters in Vegas. 18 funny cars, though. And let's just say there's a bumper crop of pro stock cars. So, that is not the case. Unfortunate too, man. Unfortunate. I hate buy runs, but it's where we're at right now. When Clay runs a new wrap on his dragster, Arby's, the Fire Brigade, he wins. Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way, but you're right. Matt says Justin Ashley, MIA, so repeat if it far in 2025 statistics. He is a footnote right now. Really not even being talked about, which is kind of strange for that team, what they're capable of doing. But I'll say this, Matt, when you look around the landscape of what we're looking at and the cars that are out there, especially this weekend, some people that weren't really hanging around last year and doing anything, Josh Hart has stepped up his game. He was at least in the ballpark on that round one win, a 50 light to Ashley's 40, but Ashley couldn't get down the racetrack. And I don't know if Ashley got down the racetrack, he would have won because Josh Hart pulls out a 667.5 at 332.67 miles an hour. That's how you're supposed to pronounce times. So I don't know if he'd ever gotten out of there. And you look at Sean Langdon, you look at Antron Brown, Doug Coletta. Sean Reed is capable of running 60s. You see the Salinas car starting to pick up a little bit here. Steve is out here throwing down numbers. Can't seem to get past the first round because he's hiccuping all over the place and giving things away. But he is a factor, to be dealt with during race day. And, of course, that daggone Monster Energy drink car has all of a sudden found its angry side and is back running repeatedly 300 to the eighth, like it's going out of style. So the competition is great. And the fact that the competition around them is just that much more consistent, that's why they're pretty much not being talked about because there are a lot of cars right now that are just simply better.
Well, just look at the qualifying field. You had 3 drivers in the middle of the field that qualified at a 695. And, right on top of each other, and you go 100th above and 100th below. And, the field is compact. And, you mentioned, like, for example, Jasmine Salinas, 2 runner-ups and a second round finish. What does that get you? 7th in points, 103 back. So the guys that are out there hitting it are still out there hitting it. Yeah. And you really got to go far on race day. And it's interesting to see the way that the gap plays out into points. The Coletta cars are 1-2 right now. You got Antron Brown, Brittany Force right behind them. Tony Stewart, Clay Millican, and Jasmine Salinas are all right there too. Josh Hart, 8 in points. Justin Ashley all the way back in 9th. And Steve Torrance just there at 10th, but he obviously skipped an event. So the difference is from 2nd all the way back to 7th in points is about 25 points. So basically around it. You could make it up in qualifying in 1 round. Jasmine Salinas could just as easily leapfrog and be 2nd in points leaving Las Vegas. So you got Sean Langdon up in front, and you got everybody else within a round. So that's just how it's going to be going through the year. And I think as much as we hate to see it, these short fields make marquee matchups in the first round, because you're going to have somebody, you're going to have two hitters. It ain't like you're going to have 8 good cars and 8 also rans, or 8 good cars, 3 mid-pack cars, and then another 5 at the bottom just filling out the field. You better hit it first round or you're going home. And that was also what makes Drag Race Bracket Bonanza and Play NHRA hard to pick, because you could pick a favorite and they're gone first round, and that's it. It's game over.
Yeah, it really is tough. And it goes back to your point. These smaller fields, but even when we look and we add in 2 or 3 more cars that are part-time, those cars are just as hefty and are not pushovers. So it's putting pressure on the first round, and of it being so important that there is no layups. I can't go out here and say, well, I'm just going to go out here and run a 75, or I'm going to run a 77 and play it safe here first round. No, because you're likely to get dusted and somebody will pull out a low 70 to a 69 and it's bye-bye. So everybody is focused on, I need my best ball here in first round. I cannot afford to miss. And because of that, pressure busts pipes. And we see these misses when it comes down to tuning up the car. And that makes for great drag racing all around, which I think we're just going to simply have all season long, because when we start getting into those events where we start seeing the field being able to be filled out with at least 3 more cars, those 3 more cars are still a pain in everybody's what, because they're good. They're not bad cars. So it's going to be interesting this year all around. This whole entire Mission Foods series classes here. It's going to make for great action and great storylines. I want to get your opinion. There's the talk new TV deal. They put it in the hands of Octagon to negotiate and look at everything and come up with a game plan to negotiate this deal. What's your thoughts on that? I know there's been some talk, people throwing out CW. There's some kind of correlation and relation there, because there's somebody on the board of directors that has an affiliation.
So no conflict of interest at all in that situation, right?
None.
Yeah, and they said that they've made the announcement that they've put specific blockades in place to prevent that from being the case, or I'm sure by the way that they vote on the board of directors or whatever it is, so that that vote doesn't count to go one way or the other, just because of potential personal interest behind it. But I mean, the CW is a great channel. I think they really came in. They put some new faces in the booth for the NASCAR teams on the Xfinity side of things, because the Xfinity series is now on the CW. They still use the same cameras and angles and everything else, just like anybody else does the whole week. It doesn't matter what channel it's on. But having the different broadcast crew in the booth, different graphics, a different way of presenting the broadcast is nice. You won't get that, I don't feel, on the NHRA side, because the NHRA broadcasts are in-house, so it's just going to be a platform to air it. The concern that I have is, here in Detroit, for my local CW, there have been 3 or 4 NASCAR Xfinity races that have been preempted by local programming, because the CW still has local affiliates and local stations who can choose what they do and do not air. And then at that point, you better be looking online streaming or something else. And for as much as the fan base of the NHRA is critical of their TV package, if you present an opportunity for any one of them somewhere, localized or regionalized in the country, that don't get to see an event live when it happens, I mean, they're just going to be heads will roll at that point. I mean, they're all right enough as it is, with people post results on the internet and spoil their results before they're even on TV. Hint, hint, competitionplus.com. Please stop spoiling the events when they happen. But no, I feel like their best bet would be just go with a channel that cares, that will present the NHRA, and I feel like you back it up just like NASCAR does. you put your events in its entirety on YouTube the following Monday or Tuesday so anybody can see it. You know what? You had your live TV window. You had your opportunity to appease your sponsors. You had your commercial sales time. Now put it on your channel. Don't wait till the end of the season and present it like a Christmas present like they did for all of 2024.
Right.
Drop the broadcast. Put the qualifying shows, put the elimination shows, put the sportsman shows, put the pro mod shows. Get them on YouTube where they can get views, continuously get views, and continuously generate ad revenue long after they've been on TV. I mean, it's really a no-brainer to go that route, in my opinion. But we'll see what this new Octagon company says because they're the ones with the money.
Yeah, and I think it's important, not just the TV package deal, but also the money that's going to be involved. Me personally, I think there is an ability to get close to the Winston days of what we saw money wise. It is it is there. I do like this outside because I think NHRA's biggest problem is its high level of nepotism. They get in their own way, and you can't have. It's all right to have that family atmosphere, but there's got to be somebody in the room that has the ability to say, no, this is probably not the way that we go, and not be a yes man to everything. And I think that's where we see ourselves stagnant with certain things. I do think that even though the NHRA does produce their own, I do think they need to have whoever takes this over do the producing. It's called fresh eyes, and fresh attracts attention and attracts those who may be a casual fan to be locked in. I know people talk about, I've heard drivers talking about this package deal and talking about getting people to the racetrack. Well, that falls on the marketing, and whether that's now Octagon, great, because let's be real, the NHRA hasn't done a great job in marketing at all. And it's part of the reason they are part of their own problem. And they choose to ride the coattails of those who have followings instead of building your own. There's no reason why that any of us should have more followers on any type of social media platform than the sanctioning body itself or its drivers. Because at the end of the day, we already know where their heart is and what they're promoting, and it's nitro. But I think that's also your downfall, because not everybody gives a crap about nitro. They don't come to the racetrack because there's nitromethane involved. And when you're packaging a class and only using 2 entities, that's a problem. That's a piss poor marketing problem. And that's why I feel like they changed the running order, and the running order really pisses on Pro Stock and Pro Stock Bike. Look at the stands when the fuel classes are over and we go to Pro Stock now. They're exiting out. They're headed to the pits. So the change did not work. Should have just kept the running order the way it was. At least people are in the stands when Pro Stock Motorcycle comes up because they're trying to get their seats for Top Fuel and Funny Car. So there's a lot of work that can be done. And I'll even throw it to the drivers. We've got people out here that are supposed to be taking care of your PR. And because they are so overwhelmed with the amount of people that they have, they are really honestly not able to provide the level of service that they should. And on top of that, to be honest, drivers should be involved in promoting their own stuff as well, because that's who they really want to see. They don't want to see these little reels of cars doing burnouts and blasting down the track. We've seen that. You know what? We've seen that for the past 15 years. Drivers have to get involved and be personable. That's why it's easy for people to latch on to an F1 or NASCAR because the drivers are front and center. It's less about the cars and more about the drivers. And that's the direction that we have to go if we're wanting to take this sport to the next level. You have to be more personable. There has to be personalities. Look at the NFL, and you either love them or you hate them, but that gives you a reason to care. Back in the day, it gave us a reason to care, right? When we had personalities back then. They have to take control of. That's the day and age we're in with social media, and they have to take control of it. Clay is, you're right, Drag Racing Mayhem. Clay is the only one who has taken charge of his own social media. And
not 100%. Because Bob Tasca does it too. Bob Tasca, every time he gets out of the car,
he does a good job.
Back to the pits, he does make a Facebook reel and shares it to Instagram and other places. He may not be on YouTube the way that Clay is, but Bob Tasca is another one who has a camera in his face after every run that he makes.
Yeah, and there needs to be more, because at the end of the day, it takes all, and it can't be on one. There's a lot of people involved in this, and it takes all. And I think this outside deal really helps the whole spectrum, and it gives a fresh set of eyes, someone that's not looking at it from a slanted point of view because it's a little biased, and they're going to look at it for what it is, try to do what they can to package this thing the right way, and then hopefully we can get some dollars that not only it's going to be a great TV package, but also increases the purses that the drivers are looking for. And I think if you have the increased purses, you'll have more of these part-time teams, even though they may not have the big sponsors, still be able to come out and make a few more races because of it.
I think it's a very, very fine line, and there's a combination of more than just personalities. There has to be some success, and there has to be some charm and some charisma to go along with it, because look how long, I think it was probably back in the late 90s, early 2000s when they finally started to do the new push, the NHRA 2000 push, where they kind of were like, Wally Parks's vision was the cars are the stars and the numbers, and they really need to start pushing the people. So they're like, well, we want more personalities. Well, Bazemore's got a personality. Yeah, not that one. No, we don't like that. No, not him. Yeah. All right, we want more personalities. Well, Steve Torrance is outspoken. No, not like that. We want personalities, but we don't want ones like that. And then you've got, Dan Wilkerson's a great interview, but he doesn't win very often, so you don't hear from him as much. So you have to have the personality and the success to back it up. And I will say, like you said, love him and hate him, Bob Tasca, for what he said at the Gator Nationals, got IndyCar fans tuning in just to see if he's backing up what he says. And it's people are on there commenting, good, I'm glad he didn't qualify. Good, he's such an arrogant, blah, blah, blah. And, this, and all he did was just voice his opinion, and he showed the personality, and it got people riled up, but it got people watching, even just to see if he would lose. It stirred up people, and it gave them a reason to see what Bob Tasca did. How fast did he get down the track? Because NHRA is the fastest. And that kind of stuff is out there. John Force obviously made it through his entire career. He was the master of it. He got out there, and as soon as Steve Evans stuck that camera in his face, man, he hammed it up. He hammed it up at the social events. He hammed it up for the sponsors, and the people paid him. And it was a likable personality. Yeah. And, it's a fine line, because you have to have the success to back it up. If John Force's personality is the way that he is, but he was a first-round loser every single race, he wouldn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't work. It doesn't go together. But I still think you still need to have the good guy versus the bad guy stuff. I mean, that's why I loved Bazemore when he would go out there. Rod Fuller went out there and he had some stuff to say. The dark side racing against Tony Schumacher. And they did battle it for a championship a couple years back to back, but fans almost saw it as contrived or made up, or it's fake. And it's hard to continue that in this sport, because the sport itself will humble you outside of your driving.
Yeah,
you can go out there, and Justin Ashley could go out there and be like, man, I'm going to murder you on the tree, and just talk all kind of crap, and then go up and smoke 300 foot out and lose every race. He did murder him on the tree, but his results don't back him up. And I think that's why, Antron made the post. These drivers need to stop being Mr. Nice Guy and Miss Nice Girl and go out there and talk some smack. But there are so many things out of your control that you can't help back up the smack with that probably makes it difficult. That, and everybody, it's a big community, and everybody wants to stick together for the betterment of the sport. So it's a fine line. It's a double-edged sword, and there's so many factors and variables involved. You can't just say, well, we want more personality, because the drivers that do seem to show it, the fans revolt pretty quickly on them.
It is pretty bad, and there's always going to be those type of fans, but I think those type of fans are the ones that kind of make things. They get people tuning in. I understand being a community, but I'm gonna tell you right now, when I stepped on the floor, and on the court, we were friends, sure, yeah, oh yeah, I was friends with a lot of people. When I got between those lines, I was looking to put your dick in the dirt. It's just that simple. We'll yuck it up, and have a good time when the competition is over. But between those lines, I want your heart. And I think that's possible. We see it in NFL all the time. Guys, gladiate the whole, for 60 minutes, and they're trading jerseys at the end of it. So I think it's possible. There is a possibility to be able to have that. You asked about Camry. I do not know anything about Sienna Wildgust at all. I'm not sure whether it was a matter of sponsorship or what the case may be. But I do know that Camry Caruso had a deal coming into Gainesville. And I think right before Gainesville, that whatever they had packaged fell through at the last minute. And they haven't been able to find partners to get themselves back out to the racetrack. Sienna, I know nothing about at all. So, here we go. Yeah, Bill Bader did. I did like what Bill Bader said. I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but I did like what Bill Bader had to say. Thought it was spot on, really. And it's something that a lot of us have been saying. I had heard some folks talk about, in reference to the TV deal, maybe specializing pro stock or putting them a different show. I just think it just comes down to the fact that at the end of the day, your business model of what a national event is needs to change. Whatever that may be. I don't think isolating pro stock to a separate show is something. I don't think that's for the best interest of the entire class. But I do think there needs to be a reduction and a kind of consolidating of what a national event is. And some things need to, maybe go to, I don't know, a Lucas Oil special event type deal. But I think we have to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit, doing the same things we've been doing, especially as things change and how we view things, how things are consumed have changed. We have to change the business model of what a national event is. Because at the end of the day, I listen to people talking about getting people to the racetrack, but there's just some people that just don't want to be there for 12 hours. They get there at 7:30 and they're there until 7:30 or sometimes later. That's not an attraction, and that's why they watch it on TV or they'll buy NHRA TV. So, I do think that's some things that need to be looked at.
Well, and the spectators in the stands will come at certain times. That's why they really consolidated the pro sessions. And, our buddy Darren pointed it out specifically because he's obviously been to all the events this year so far since they've changed up the Saturday schedule and the way that they've basically reorganized the class run order and everything. And he said, it's turn and burn. I mean, you are done. You are in and out so fast with the nitro cars from the first session to the second session. So they know if people want to come, you can show up for a 4-hour window and see all the pro cars. And if that's what you want to come and pay for, well, there you go. There's your window. And he said, we get back with the funny cars and they're already ready to start the dragster again. And they're pulling them out for Q3 or Q2 or Q4 and start it right all over again. So they've definitely consolidated the pro show part of things. Part of that, unfortunately, is the lower card counts and the lower field counts, because the more cars you've got and the more downtime too, with potential explosions and whatnot. Other than Austin Prock's rear end breakage at the Gator Nationals this year, we really haven't seen, outside of that specifically as a mechanical failure. Ron Cap's issue obviously was an accident that required a lot of cleanup. Trip Tatum's did, which obviously turned into a rain delay. But for the most part, there hasn't been too many, even when they've had blower explosions or Hagen's in the funny car deal this weekend. It was a big flash. It blew out the burst panels. There wasn't a long delay after it. They kept the show rolling. So I think they've gotten way more efficient with what they're doing, and that's to help the in-stadium crowd. But like you said, it's a changing market. It's a changing demographic, and people don't want to get there at 8 a.m. and stay till 10 o'clock at night. And on top of that, I also feel for the people who don't really get considered in all this, the safety safari members, the media members, the track officials. Those guys don't want to be there all day. They don't want to be there from the crack of dawn until dusk, because those guys are out there in all weather conditions all day long. They need a break too. And I'm glad NHRA recognizes that.
Yeah, it makes for a long day, man. It makes for a long day. And Showtime is right. Fridays are rough. Night sessions are always better, and the prices are pretty high right now for an event. I will say, everybody's prices are pretty much up, and I guess unless you're AEW, everybody has kind of jacked up the prices on their tickets. From football, all stick and ball sports. Although I do find if you wait till the last minute, sometimes you can get a really cheap ticket to a sporting event. But overall, ticket prices are up, and I do think that does kind of hurt things a little bit. Let's see what he said. Considering F1 tickets are $500, I don't want to hear about prices being too high. I mean, it's expensive,
but nobody wants to go to see an F1 race, so it don't matter. Who wants to watch? I could take that same nap in 2 hours, and you saw the start, you saw the finish, because they don't ever pass each other.
Yeah, it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. But that is expensive. Don't get me wrong. It's expensive. I mean, I think this is going to be good. I do think there's going to be a really good outcome for the NHRA going this route, because I do believe that the competition and the product is probably at the best it's ever been. Especially coming out of COVID, I think the product has been at the best it's ever been. And we have this conversation all the time about glory days, and when you really take and analyze, you could probably even go from 2016 back, that there was just a handful of cars out there that were good. Everybody else is just filling up the field. And now it makes it, it makes it more compelling when I can have a person like a Blake Alexander possibly get to the final. Some of these smaller teams actually have a chance, like we've seen with Paul Lee and Chad Green coming out here and getting wins, national event wins. So it really says a lot about where the sport is. And so they shouldn't have much of a problem, finding a suitor. It's just finding the right suitor for it. Because again, like we talked about, local TV stations are going to do what's best for them. And, so that has to be considered when trying to get this whole thing done. Randy Johnson says, we love the top fuel, but costs have become too excessive. Only 14 car fields at Pomona says it all. It should have been a 20-plus car field. And I do agree with you. It has cost is an issue. Sponsorship is an issue for some as well, because the cars are there. It's just these cars don't want to travel all the way west and then come back across the country. It's a little bit much for their pockets. That's why you'll see them kind of consolidated to about Indy East. And maybe you might see them stretch out and do a Western swing event. And that is the biggest issue right now. It is sponsorship. Like it's great that Arby's wanted to come on board, but for a couple races, but it would be nice if they could come in and be on full time. And I think what my thought process was, I don't know about you, Dave, but when I thought about it, when Tony Stewart was coming into this, it's not so much about who he is and the championships he's won and the type of racer he is. It's not about him bringing in a team and, competing here as a team owner. It was more so about the fact that because of who he is in that NASCAR world, that we would start to see some of those sponsors, because of him, see the value in what we're doing over here and come over and be a part of the NHRA. We've seen Rick Ware get involved and field a team. We'll have 2 cars here soon. I thought that we would see some of those come to NHRA. I don't know what's holding them back, but I don't know if you felt the same way as well.
To a certain point, but it's not like NASCAR is not also struggling with sponsorship on that front as well. Rick Hendrick's another one that's partnered with John Force Racing and with KB Titan, obviously on HendrickCars.com, on Brittany's Dragster, and on Greg's Pro Stock car. So they're out there, but I think that there has to be more team affiliations. And I think that the main thought was, with Tony coming over, he might bring more NASCAR owners with him. And they might want to look in going, well, we could probably, for pennies on the dollar, add another competitive motorsports team, the way that Penske does. I mean, Penske's got a bigger footprint. They're in IndyCar, they're in IMSA, they're in NASCAR. I'm surprised that they must not see a value in NHRA, or they would have a Top Fuel or a Funny Car, sponsored by Penske or owned by Roger Penske. And obviously we've seen it in the past. Joe Gibbs came over. He had a team for a while, the former Larry Minor Racing team, and he added Jim Yates in the Pro Stock side. But for some reason, they just don't really stick around as much. And if you remember back in the Gibbs days, there was a lot of overflow between the sponsorships on the McDonald's side and the MB&A car, MB&A being on the Top Fuel Dragster, Interstate Batteries being on the Funny Car. So they did cross promote between the sponsors. And I think that you'd have to get more owners involved. And I don't know that there's too many owners that are kind of looking in this direction to be able to do that. It would be cool, but I don't really know on the sponsor side. You'd have to have more of the affiliation there with the specific team for that to kind of correlate and come over.
Yeah. It's, what do you think is holding these owners? Because compared to NASCAR compared to having a Top Fuel or Funny Car ride or hell, even a bike or a Pro Stock car is not nearly as expensive as having a NASCAR operation. Why do you think some of these owners haven't really dipped their toes in the water over here and tried it, especially since you have a person like a Rick Ware getting involved, of course, Tony Stewart coming over as well? Why do you think that is?
I feel like because there's more to it than just the cost of operating the team. You got to have the personnel, and you got to go out there and be successful. And most of the personnel are already at all the big teams. And unless you start plucking and poaching people here and there, or taking a chance and hiring some of these young guns that are up and coming that you always like to mention and talk about that are working their way up on these teams, if you don't willingly take that chance to put them in the lead role, there's only so many people that are out there that can do it and know how to do it. And I feel like it's not like you could go in there in the NASCAR side of thing. It's easier to get a technical alliance in NASCAR through a manufacturing side of things. So if you're going to be a Ford team, which you do have to pay for, like the Wood Brothers, for example, is basically a satellite fourth Penske car. They're a tier 2 team on Ford for the help that they get. And, that translates into success. I mean, look at Josh Berry in the season that he's had so far, won at Las Vegas out of nowhere on a 1.5-mile track. But that was with Penske help, Penske setup, and Penske money. Or Ford technology. I think NHRA had that for a little bit with the Toyota racing team that is unfortunately going away at the end of this year. That was really the most manufacturer cross support. Toyota track specialist in the nitro categories. If you were on Team Toyota, you had the benefit of all that information, of the wind tunnel testing, of all the fluid dynamics testing that they did, the aero testing that they did. And unfortunately, that's even going away. So I think that without being able to step into a role that you have outside assistance, you really are going to struggle to just, I couldn't go out there and buy a pro stock car and be anywhere close to making the field if I wanted to. I better be partnering with Elite, KB, Frank Iconio Racing Engine, somebody that's already out there with experience and has a pretty much turnkey setup ready to go. It's not an entry-level sport, and you got to have the parts and the pieces and the connections in place to do it, to be successful at it. So I think that they look at it that way. Now, if more manufacturers were willing to go over and provide more technical support and technical data, I think you might see it more, but it's just not out there. And it's really, really a shame. And I don't think people understand the loss that it will be when Toyota steps away at the end of the season.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting. And Toyota has done an excellent job of promoting the drivers, and as a collective team, NASCAR, NHRA, the whole bit. They've done an excellent job, better than any manufacturer, I think, that has been a part of the NHRA. It's definitely going to be felt for sure. And, those are kind of some of the things, what you said there, Drag Racing Mayhem, are kind of some of the things of what Bill Bader was talking about. It is a sport, but, it's in some cases could be viewed as a hobby for some. Torrance is like, he's out there because he is Capco, and he has the ability to have the extra funds to be able to do it. And he wants to be out there. Those things are definitely all things that are going to definitely need to be considered and have to improve. And maybe the exposure and having the right TV deal will help that tremendously. But I would think that with what Fox has done, the exposure is there. The exposure is definitely there. It's just a matter of getting these obscure, whether it's like a fiber company who makes fiber pills, or some of these obscure companies that are just everyday things that
get OnlyFans to sponsor.
You had to go there. you had to go there. It would be nice to be able to get some of those to come in and bolster, but maybe it is about the exposure and being seen, because they're only out there for 3.5 seconds. So TV time, the way it's packaged, the way it's done, is important. And that's why I say the NHRA should probably get out of the business of producing it and allow this new company to also produce it. Because at the end of the day, I think a fresh look is always good. We see it when we look at how football has been packaged. We see what some of the UFL things, XFL things that have been done. And now you see the NFL pick up those things and how it's viewed and how it's packaged attracts a lot of the casual fan that gets involved. And maybe they just get involved because of fantasy football, but they're watching every day because they're vested now. But also the presentation also helps. So there's a lot of things that can be looked at to kind of, make things a little bit better and attract sponsors in a way, that will get them to kind of say, yeah, that's what I want to do. That seems like a great way to get my business out there.
Well, and they're trying. They really are, and they're really trying. Like you mentioned, people tune in and then they want to get interactive. People don't care at all about NCAA basketball, but you got office polls filling out their brackets. That's where Drag Race Bracket Bonanza comes in. That's what Elon and his company is doing there to get that. You know what? You don't have to just watch it. You could play it too. You can get in there. You can have a stake in this game. And that's what the Play NHRA initiative is all about. If you want to really have a stake in this game, you could put some money on it too. So they're trying to show you, hey, you know what? We're more than just out here running cars. You can, if you don't want to just be about the thrill of the car going down the track, the noise, the experience, the personalities, if you just want to use it as a way to try and make money, you can have Play NHRA. If you want to just win cool prizes and have fun with it and compete against your friends, fill out your brackets on Drag Race Bracket Bonanza every week. They're doing their best. They're putting it out there. It just hasn't reached the level that I think it should and can have the potential to do one day. But they're trying. Yeah. They've got it out there. They're trying to at least spread it beyond just cars going down the track. So kudos to Elon and team for the Drag Race Bracket Bonanza side, and NHRA and the team for the Play NHRA.
Absolutely. And yep, Blake, no problem. Just holler at me and we'll work that out for sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are towards the end of the show. We went over a half hour. That's fine. It was a great conversation. Thank you guys for being involved. And we are one more race away from the first quarter of the regular season being over. And it's been an exciting 3 races of the NHRA season. Really looking forward to seeing what Vegas produces, even though we might be short in some areas as far as cars go. But the action should be great.
For sure. And if anybody was curious and wondering the answer to the trivia question from earlier, it was Tim Wilkerson and Phil Burkhart Jr. going back-to-back at Joliet and Columbus in 1999. Daniel's daddy, when he won his first, was the last time we had back-to-back first-time winners. So Daniel could have been a part of history with that. And furthermore, Tony Stewart lost, unfortunately, in the Top Fuel final on his side of things. The last time you had 2 first-time Nitro winners in the same race, Englishtown 1997, Kristen Powell and Kenji Okazaki. And
that's a name.
Never can turn down an opportunity to mention Kenji-san in any statistic history at the old Moon Ice car with Jim Dunn Racing. And I just think that, there's all kind of cool stuff that's out there. And, these guys are going to win one sooner or later.
Good one, man. Yeah. We do have to be careful what we wish for. That is true. That is true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. We're going to leave you with this word from our sponsor. Again, thank you, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. Thank you, Sports Journey, for everything you do for us here. Of course, dragracereference.com. It's been awesome for us media people to be able to dive in and you to dive in and kind of keep track of what's going on with different drivers and their records and where they're going. It's expanding every day. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be good and don't do anything I wouldn't do. All right. Good night, everybody.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.